All right, I am opening up the room now. We should start seeing our right. Hello, everyone. We're going to get started in a minute. I think we had over 300 registrants for today's session. So everybody should have gotten your reminders. We're really excited to host you here today. We're going to wait for everyone to dial in. Thank you all for joining us today. We couldn't be more thrilled that you are here. We couldn't be more thrilled to host Angelina and the C-Suite coach and all of our partners. So we are really looking forward to hosting. All right, so I'm going to turn on the live transcript. We made it a point to ensure that all of our meetings are accessible for everyone. And we made sure that across Major League Baseball, captions are available for all of our Zoom calls. That no one should be left out. No one should have lack an opportunity to participate. And these are the things that are important to us and that we value. So everyone is included. Everyone should be able to participate. Everyone should have access. So we're going to start off in just 1 minute. We're over 80 right now, so we're going to wait a couple more people to jump on now in a minute. It wouldn't be a meeting if I didn't ask Angelina how my boy Rock is doing.
So everyone on the call, Rock is my dog. If you follow me on any social media, please feel free to check out Rock. It's really just a Rock Stan account. I have a chocolate lab and he's doing great. Put him in daycare today, so you won't hear squeaky toys in the background today.
Does he have his own Instagram yet?
He does. He's Rock the Choc Lab.
I'm gonna go look him up. That's my boy.
Yeah. So.
All right, we are nearing 100. We're at 90 right now. We're gonna give it 30 more seconds before we hand it over to you, Angelina, and your team for this amazing, exciting conversation that I'm looking forward to on building business remotely, presence, and virtual networking.
Hi, Amia. Welcome back. And you all take Amia's lead, by the way, as you're joining. We definitely want to make sure we know who is in the room, and we'll have time for that, but please use the chat all session long.
Yes. So we have probably a number of first-time visitors with us today. If you missed last week's session, email us. You should have received information from Ashley Manzueta on my team. Please feel free to reach out to her directly. But last week was a treat for us. So we were thrilled, Angelina, to host you last week. This is the second part of our series. And we're hoping to break 100 right now. We're at 98. We've got a number of people that we're going to be welcoming in, but you know what? It is 104, and we're going to start our day. So, quick intro to me. Thank you everybody for taking the afternoon. We're over at 101 right now, registrants. So we couldn't be more thrilled at Major League Baseball to host you, Angelina, and your team, and all of you, our partners, vendors, anyone who's interested in doing business with baseball. We're thrilled to have you. This is part of our broader Black History Month programming that we're rolling out throughout the month, and really focused on our recruitment efforts and building relationships with HBCU talent, driving really meaningful conversations across baseball. So if you have an opportunity to go on to MLB.com, yesterday we showed our unfiltered conversation, but we're really invested in and committed to our communities and you, our vendors, our partners, anyone interested in doing business with baseball. And we couldn't be more thrilled to host experts in this space who are as deeply committed and passionate to building Black businesses as one herself. We are thrilled to offer this opportunity and this session for all of you today. So I'll be back on the close, but I want to introduce to you Angelina Darrisaw and her team at the C-Suite Coach, who will help you throughout the rest of this afternoon session. So Angelina, thank you. I love partnering with you. This is our third or fourth year now partnering across two separate organizations, and I couldn't be more thrilled. So welcome and thank you. You're on mute.
Thank you so much, Justin. No matter how many times you do Zoom, that always has the potential to happen. And thank you to Major League Baseball for hosting these programs. I saw a few of you say that you're returning from last week. So welcome back if you were with us last week. And if you're new, welcome as well. We're really excited to have you. I will be going through the chat throughout the conversation today. So please, please, please do engage with the chat. We want to hear from you. And one of the things we'll be talking about today is virtual networking and how to maximize opportunities like this to network with other business owners in the room. Us sharing opportunities is how we gain more opportunities. So I will be sharing my screen in just a second, but before I do that, I do want to call out two folks from my team who will also be engaging with the chat. They may drop in links that are relevant to you or answer some of your questions if I can't get to them quickly enough. Again, I will be checking the chat. I have my two laptops set up so I can engage and follow with you. So please use the chat. But also I want to recognize Jackie Carter from my team and Kenroy Tyrell from my team who may engage with you in the chat as well. So without further ado, we only have an hour and 25 minutes, and that can go by pretty fast. So I want to go ahead and share my screen with you and jump into present mode and talk about some of what we're here to chat about today, which is all about, I'm just going to present the slides, which is all about how we can make the most, maximizing building relationships in the space that we're in right now, how we can manage our teams. And also, I want you to be thinking a little bit about B2B businesses, and we'll close with some notes on supplier diversity, as well as specifically with Major League Baseball, how you can engage with Major League Baseball. So it would be important for me to share a little bit about who I am. And again, everyone, this voice that's talking to you, it's Angelina Darrisaw here. And I'm a Black business owner myself, a proud business owner of 6 years. I'm really excited to be here today. And I want to tell you just quickly a little bit about my company. What we do is we're really committed to working with large Fortune 500 companies and achieving equity in the workplace and in business. We do this through sourcing coaches and professional development, inclusive content like what you'll experience today. So that is really the key core of what we do, really with a focus on Black and Latinx communities. All my tags are there. If you want to reach out to us for anything, please do feel free to do so. And we're excited to add MLB to the list of organizations we've had the pleasure of partnering with who are committed to driving equity forward in the workplace. Just snapshot of our services. We do coach staffing, program design and management, content design and delivery. So feel free to check any of that out on our website. But that's not what you're here for today. You're here to talk and network with each other and to learn more about virtual networking best practices. So the first key, and I do have to give a kudos to Amia, who started us off, came right in, jumped in the chat, is introducing yourself. So we kept the chat active on purpose, and just ground rules, we want you to use it. So if you have not already, and I'll check the chat in just a second, I want you to throw in your name, the name of your business. If you have a website, are you already doing business with Major League Baseball? And what are you hoping to get out of today's session? So go ahead and throw any of that up in the chat. I'm going to just take about a minute and a half to go through some of what's already here and see where you all are joining from. So thank you so much. I'm seeing some of you love the closed captioning options. Yes. Hi, Minda. Hi, Dawn. Hi, Ashley. We have Linda from SoCal. So happy to have you with us. We have Keena from Cincinnati. So I'm seeing a lot of representation, folks sharing their businesses, more from Cincinnati. Great. I'm seeing also folks from various industries, Detroit, Michigan, David Johnson. Okay, great. Make sure you're sharing what your business is as well. Chicago, Illinois is represented. Wonderful. So keep dropping your information in the chat. It's opportunities. Many of you are in the same cities. You could be networking right here with each other, with those of you who are in your cities. Okay, Bronx, New York. I'm from Brooklyn. You're not doing business with MLB yet. Okay, so hopefully we can talk about opportunities for you there. Lots of great chat going on. Keep that going. I love to see it. All right, so what is on our agenda today? And please don't let me talking stop you from engaging with each other, but we have some things to cover. So I want to talk a little bit about managing your teams and your relationships remotely. When it comes to thinking about how to manage your team as well as your clients, you'll see that there's a lot that transfers when you're thinking about how do I keep these relationships going remotely. So if you have a team, if you're building a team, one of the things that has been really interesting for me in this time is I've had to hire quite a bit, both contractors and employees in a virtual setting for my business to keep growing. And that has all been 100% remote. So over 10 contractors and 2 employees hiring new in a virtual space. How do you build community? How do you keep a sense of culture? How do you make sure you're effective in growing your business during this time? We'll also share some virtual networking best practices. It's something that we can all get better at doing. I'm really excited to see you all already leaning into one of my favorite best practices, which would be if there is a chat, use it. And then we'll talk about business to business strategies. Are any of you doing B2B right now, working to serve other organizations? Why is that important? Could it be a game changer for your business? We'll lean into that just a little bit and close talking a little bit about MLB supplier diversity and doing business with the MLB. So I always think when we talk about these topics, it's important to set the stage of where we are. And there are 2 great reports that came out in the last year that are worth looking at when thinking about how to celebrate yourself as a Black-owned business and what's really going on in the landscape right now. And so SCORE does an annual report on women-owned businesses as well as Black-owned businesses. McKinsey recently released a report on Black-owned businesses as well. And what we're seeing is that while 20% of Black-owned businesses get started or Black Americans start business, only 4% are actually surviving the startup phase. So, you know, a lot of us getting businesses started, but when we're talking about being viable, when we're talking about thriving, there's a lot more growth that needs to happen there and support that needs to happen from institutions to make sure that we are surviving these phases. What's really interesting is that among the businesses we're starting, we are actually over-indexing in terms of age diversity as well as gender diversity. So 22% of businesses being started are by millennials and about half are by women. And the reasons are many. We're starting businesses because we're ready to be our own boss. Okay, we are tired of working for the man. We want to pursue our own passions. That to me is a really beautiful thing. I was just chatting earlier today about my great grandmother who's turning 100 and how she started working at the age of 12 as a maid and a housekeeper. Pursuing her own passions was not something that she had access to. And so to sit here in 2021, almost 100 years after she was born in May of 1921, and be able to say, I'm pursuing my passion is a real gift. So that's one of the reasons why we're starting our own businesses. We're taking advantage of the wave that our ancestors have paved for us. We're dissatisfied with corporate America. Systemic inequity is all around us, not just in the undercapitalization of our businesses, it's in the workplaces we sit in when we are working corporate. It is all around us and it's exhausting. So having a business is a pathway to a working environment where you're perhaps treated fairly because you're creating that. So lots of opportunities there. But before the pandemic, one thing that was interesting is that about 72% of Black business owners said that their businesses were profitable. However, as we saw in the pandemic, about 40% of Black-owned businesses closed. So we really need more resources. We have the passion, we have the vision, and we're executing, but we need more resources to make sure that we are really thriving and surviving in these times. And that's part of what we're here for today. Just a couple quick more. I talk about our undercapitalization. We're using cash to fund our businesses. We're getting less funds from friends and families than our white counterparts that are starting businesses. And we also have fewer employees than them. So many of us are venturing into businesses alone. Almost half of us are running our businesses alone. And when we think about scalability and growth, which is really some of the focus of what we're talking about today, we can't do it alone. So we have to start thinking about how do we set our businesses up to have teams and manage teams. And something else to think about, and we'll talk also about just diversifying our revenue streams and our outlets. We need more geographic opportunity. We're concentrated heavily in 16 states. 65% of Black Americans are concentrated in just 16 states, and that's where our businesses are. We're also less likely than our peers to have exposure and access to lucrative business opportunities. So we have to continue to network virtually or in person. If you're in a state that's open, use COVID guidance and be cautious. But for many of us, that's not the case. For most of us, we are still having to do our networking online. So it's critical that we have a strategy when we're going out to network online. I just want to share again, and some of you, we talked about this point last week, but the solution for some of the challenges that we're facing as Black business owners right now is intention and sustained institutional support. So we are a year out almost, coming close to a year from a lot of big companies' reactions to the events of what happened, the unfortunate murder of George Floyd, and the reactions of big companies stepping up. Well, we need to hold them accountable to make sure that those reactions are sustainable. We need sustained change. And so that's what we're seeing here. I'm really proud to follow Justin and see those who are working in the diversity team at MLB create a lot of programming and get dollars. They're doing some amazing things, even in terms of offering resources from a promotional standpoint for Black-owned businesses to grow. So lots more that we need to be holding companies accountable for. But now I want to dive in a little bit and just talk about how we grow. Part of how we grow is through relationships with our customers. Part of how we grow is setting up our teams, onboarding them properly to handle the workload of a scalable business. And that means we really need an emphasis on growing our relationships across the board. So it's a new normal right now. And in that new normal, I want each of you to just drop in the chat one way you're managing relationships remotely, as we've adjusted almost a year in being in this pandemic space. So if you could all, I'll check in the chat. I'm gonna look at some of your responses. Okay, so many of you put in great things. Oh, the chat is on fire. Yes, okay, you're using your partner network to spread global reach. Yeah, the percentages are staggering. Yes. And that is why us even having this community right here in this Zoom is so important. Daily happy hours, video calls over phone calls. Okay. Now, sometimes I get tired of having my camera on, but it's important to build those relationships. Video meetings with clients, putting a face and name to the voice. Yes. Using Slack and Zoom daily. Okay. I'm seeing some folks throw out some other websites that have been really useful. Connecting with professional organizations to broaden reach. So yeah, we're going to talk about that. But when we talk about intention, some of that is trying things that you might not have had a need to try in a pre-pandemic world. Virtual showcasing, classes on IG Live, a lot of digital. Keep throwing it in the chat. And again, I'll continue to check in. But there's a lot of idea sharing. And I think that's really important because while I'm presenting to you, you all are business owners too. And you all may have new ideas that I don't even know about. So we need to keep this knowledge sharing going. Using LinkedIn for networking, absolutely. All of these things are true. One thing I'll call out that just happened for those of you who were on right when we got started, In this world, it is important to make sure that we're connecting not just about business, but also about the personal. You know, when Justin reaches out to me and he knows the love of my life, which is my dog Rock, okay? You know, he always makes a point of checking in and seeing how my dog is doing, how I'm doing, because we're all battling a lot in a lot of different ways. So really making sure when you're thinking about relationships, you're taking a step even further to identify with the personal of the people you're connecting with, because it matters a lot in this time more than ever. So one thing I want to share with you, one of my favorite sayings in business when I think about digital marketing strategies, and that's something we talked a lot about last week. And if you were there last week, something I said was, whatever you're doing online should amplify what you're doing offline. So your offline goals should be amplified by your digital marketing strategies and what you're doing online. Well, when we think about networking virtually, when we think about building relationships, maintaining our teams, and managing our clients virtually, I'm going to flip that for you a little bit. And I'm going to say that some of what has happened offline needs to move online. So it really is about being strategic and figuring out, how do we move what made us successful offline to this online world? And there's a lot that's really consistent, right? So one of those things would be, for instance, making sure that you're very clear on your mission, that you are implementing what your organizational values are in everything that you do. You're leaning forward, you're clear on your messaging. What we talked about last week in terms of an ideal customer, you know the target customer you're seeking to reach, and you're very specific in the channels to reach that customer. So that really all begins with a clear knowledge and vision for the mission that you're seeking for your business every day, and knowing the values you represent. Having the mission and values of your company clearly defined is really important in attracting potential talent. So for those of you who are solopreneurs and you're looking to build a team, you're looking for more folks to work with you. And this is really important. I think about this a lot as I got started with my first employee, and I barely had budget, right? My very first, I had to stop paying myself or limit what I was paying myself, and also think about, you know, this is a huge investment for me, but it might not feel like a high salary for that person. How do I drive your interest in my company? And that stems from really, as the leader of the company, being sure that you are crystal clear in how you're defining your mission and your values, so that stands out to potential talent. It also is going to be something that connects you with potential customers. If you're leaning forward with your mission, if you're leaning forward with your values, your customers will see that, and that will help you identify and attract the right customers for your business. Now, alongside that, you need a clearly established onboarding process, and you need that across all different mediums. So if you're bringing on new employees or contractors, especially in a virtual world where they can't just pop over to your desk and ask you questions, they may not be sitting beside you day to day, and they're relying on screens to understand how to do their job, how to work with you, how to move your business goals forward. You need to take the time to define an onboarding process. What does that first week look like? How do they move from that crawling space or the training wheels to getting the training wheels taken off, and now they're able to walk and run and they know how to do that job? So is that an assignment early on the first week, and providing that instantaneous feedback to show what's working well, what's not working well, and training them into how to do the role? Whatever it is, it has to be a clearly defined process, so that over time, you're able to actually rely on this resource that you're bringing into your organization to be effective for you. I say all the time, as business owners, one thing I've never heard a business owner say is, you know what I have, especially a small business owner, you know what I have so much of? Just resources, budget, Time. I have so much of that. I never hear that. If that is you in the chat, definitely drop me a note in the chat. I need to come connect with you. But we're limited. I say that to say we're limited in time and resources. So when you're bringing someone on, you want a strong process to really maximize the time that you have with them so that they can get up to speed quicker. So you need those clear onboarding processes. The other piece would be for your own efficiency. You need those clear onboarding processes with your clients too. What are the things you know they're going to ask for? Do you have a W-9 ready? Do you have a format for your invoices? Do you have templates for your proposal? What are the things that you can turn around quickly that you know consistently your clients are expecting of you? So one thing I will share, we use Google Workspace for just about everything. Google is one of my biggest clients. And so we use Google Workspace for almost everything. Some of you may be using Microsoft Teams. If you're using any other tools to run your business, go ahead and drop it in the chat. Yeah, someone put, not paying myself, thank you, Amia, to bring on 2 employees to manage growth. These are the sacrifices we're making as small business owners. So want to just talk about how you can use some of these digital tools to enhance your onboarding processes or make your life more efficient. And one of the things that we do is we have some templates. We actually create even our own templates, and you can save those in your Google Drive so that if I want to open up an invoice, all of my information, my tax ID, my address, anything that a client would need on an invoice is already in the template. So all I have to do is change the line items, download it as a PDF, and boom, I can send those invoices off, right? So maybe you find another system for you. It might be using a FreshBooks, QuickBooks, but you need to find ways to automate processes to really maximize your time and use technology to be efficient as possible for your clients. The other thing that's really clear, and this should be happening, hopefully it was happening for you offline, but it's even more important now that we're online, you need a really clear cadence for how you're communicating. So what are the expectations? As we've shifted, we're not in the office anymore. So now that we're not in the office, do you need flexible hours for working with clients, or does anyone on your team need flexible hours because they're also managing homeschooling people in the house, or different, they're managing having other people that are working from home alongside them. There's a different world right now in terms of how our homes are being used for where we work. So what that requires is you as the leader have to define both with, if it's your team or if it's with your clients, what are your expectations around how we communicate? Are we on a 9 to 6 model? Is there flexibility? I have to take my child to online school from 9 to 11 and be there alongside my kindergartner. So therefore my needs are different. Could we have all of our meetings after 12 p.m. EST, right? Setting those expectations is really useful in making sure your business runs more smoothly in an online world. And the same thing you would do with your team, you need to set those expectations with your clients as well. And then also methods of communication. So many of you, okay, and I'm seeing more great resources. Ooh, this chat is going to be on fire. I can't wait to read through all of it because there's so many resources being dropped. But also, many of you put platforms that you're using earlier in the chat. So platforms like, we're using a daily Slack to keep in touch with each other. We're using Zoom. We're picking up the phone. We're picking up the video and doing video conference calls as opposed to just phone calls and emailing. So figuring out what is the zone of communication that works best for your team is something else that will help you maintain those relationships. If you know that the people on your team might be stressed by having to look on, maybe they don't want to put on the fancy outfit or do the makeup, could you adjust and have not every call be video on? What are the expectations around that? If they come on video, do they have to be in business casual? Can you change kind of the expectations around what they should be wearing to show up at work, given that they're working from home? So really thinking about resetting those expectations with both your clients and your teams is important. We also have that we need to think about systems that encourage collaboration. So this was, again, something that was important when we were offline, but is even now more important online. So we used to have team offsites. I miss those days so much, where we would all travel in person and be somewhere awesome. And we had team dinners and happy hours and all the fun things. And, you know, I miss the social time. But from a work standpoint, what made those team offsites so rich was we had opportunities to, on a whiteboard, brainstorm, come up with ideas, share best practices, give critical feedback. And there is something really magical that happens when you're all in a room together and you're thinking about one key question or a couple critical questions to move the business forward. Well, now we don't have the opportunity for offsites. So in lieu of that, how do we recreate that online? Is it shared documents? Do we have other ways? We had tried something, and Kimro, you'll have to put it in the chat. I can't remember the name, Jamboard. We had tried Jamboard, that's what it was, to do some brainstorming together to recreate that whiteboard feeling for us when we were trying to do some brainstorming. So how do we encourage collaboration? Because you need those moments, you need the brainstorms, you need the best practices sharing. How do you bring that online for your team, for your clients, so that you can keep moving your business forward and remain innovative? That's really important. We need platforms for collecting feedback. So this is, again, both for your teams as well as for any of your potential clients. When we talk about some of you, I believe in the chat all the way in the beginning, when we were talking about how you're getting your customers, you know, some of you, it might be word of mouth. Justin, for instance, brought up, we've worked together across different organizations. What your goal should be for any of your customers is, you're doing such a good job with them. They want to keep doing business with you. They want to come back and do more with you. They want to buy more products or more services from you. When they leave an organization, they want to take you with them because they still want your business. That's really the goal. But in order to achieve that goal, you have to keep track of what worked, what didn't work. How do we keep iterating on how we can get better? So there has to be some sort of platform in place to collect feedback. Again, after a virtual session like this, right? The Zoom is over, we're all cut off. The conversation could just end there. Whereas when we were in person, I could stay after a while, we could grab coffee, we could catch up and have that informal conversation, that dialogue that helps me understand what they loved, what they want more of next time. So now the onus is on us in this digital world to make sure we're continuing to collect that feedback. What does it look like? Is it an email? Is it a call after the call? Finding what the platform, what you're going to use to gather that feedback from your clients is really key. And of course, for those of you that do have employees, finding out how do you give that feedback on an ongoing basis, but also in a way that they can understand where they want to grow, how they can grow with you is really important. And then the last piece just on this and thinking about what was happening offline that needs to move on online. In an offline world, you know, what I miss, we used to be able to have a cheers to a new partnership, or I had holiday parties for my company to celebrate some of our successes at the end of the year. There were a range of different things that we did to celebrate our wins. That has to keep happening, especially if you want to keep your clients engaged with you, if you want the team morale to stay up. There has to be a way for you to keep integrating in how we're celebrating those wins and successes in an online world. So what does that look like? It could look like giving your team Amazon gift cards or creating a virtual happy hour to celebrate a win. Thank you so much for staying with the company through the pandemic. Let's have a celebration, whatever the case might be. Finding ways, though, to celebrate those wins and achievements is really critical. Okay, so I talked your ears off. I'm gonna check the chat. Yes, I host after parties after a Zoom call. I stay around after the official end of the meeting call. Awesome, great. And I'm seeing some questions come up that are specifically related to real estate with MLB. I have some thoughts on engaging with MLB specifically that I'll share in just a couple minutes. And then for the very industry specific questions, as mentioned, how you all got here today was from an email. You got the Zoom information, an email from Ashley, and she has welcomed you to follow up with her with questions as well. So you want to make sure you keep that in that email in your inbox. Okay. So on the flip side, there are some things that worked in person that may not work remotely. And so this is where we have to be open to adapting a little bit. It might mean we had lesser meetings. I was always in a meeting pre-pandemic, and there were those pop-ups that happened where it was, just drop it on my schedule. We'll brainstorm it out. We'll figure it out. Call me anytime. But now that I'm on screens constantly, I realize that the burnout can be real. So it might mean, and everyone wants to do a video call for everything now, right? So I had to restructure my schedule to accommodate the new normal for me, which meant, for instance, I used to have an open calendar. Now we structure our calendars using office hours, where there are a couple days a week where we dedicate to certain meetings with certain cohorts of contractors or clients that we work with. And we really are just very strategic about how we're using our time, because we know we can't be in meetings all day, and having a meeting just pop up can throw off the energy of the day, and we have to get work done. So we adjust to that. We've also adjusted meeting lengths. Not every meeting has to be 30 minutes or an hour. So using 20-minute meetings or 25-minute meetings has been something that's been really helpful in making sure we're really efficient, and also we're not burning out all the people that we have to work with. Again, I talked about shared collaboration tools. So if you were not already using tools like Microsoft Teams and Google Workspace, now you really can't avoid it. You need that, because even the folks that are on the call with me, Jackie's based in Houston, Texas. Kenroy's based in Brooklyn, New York. I'm currently in Aventura, Florida. We're all in different places, and we need ways to stay on top of projects together, to make sure we're all managing when deadlines are happening, what our progress is on particular projects. We have to have shared collaboration tools. So you have to figure out what that is for you. For you, it might be a project management tool. It might be using something like an Asana, a Trello. So lots of options there, but you do need tools for that shared collaboration. And new norms might come into effect. I used to be in a sheath dress every day. I don't know if any of y'all used to watch House of Cards, but my friends used to say I always looked like Claire Underwood. That was my style. And let me tell you what I'm not doing in a pandemic: getting dressed up to sit at my laptop, right? Except for today, that's, a little exception. But so there's an adjustment there that had to take place. And I recognize that even if I was business casual before, and so was my whole team, we all have to adjust to the fact that we're working from our kitchen tables, we're working from our living rooms. There's a lot going on. We might have to walk our dogs in the middle of the day, all kinds of things happening. So how do we adapt? How do we pivot and be more flexible and create a working environment that's not stressful for our teams or stressful for those on the other end of the screen with us? And then again, adapting new habits. So some of you mentioned, you're trying some things that you might not have tried before. Maybe before you didn't have a website. Well, now it's pretty difficult to keep people engaged with your business if you don't have it, especially in a COVID world. Even if you had a brick and mortar business, I now need your website to know what COVID guidelines you're following. Are all of your services the same? Have you changed your services? Anything else I need to know about your business? Are your hours different? All of the different ways you might have pivoted, I'm looking online to find that information. So before, maybe you didn't think a digital strategy was as critical to your business. Now you cannot get away from it. You absolutely need it. So there might be new things that you didn't try before that you now have to try and leverage to keep your potential clients engaged with your business. That might be content creation. Maybe you never had a newsletter before. but now you're not running into your clients in person. So sharing those updates on a weekly basis is critical. Having video that helps people understand how to do business with you is critical. And also, someone said they're joining more networking. I remember reading that in the chat. I can't remember which one of you said it, but you're joining more networking sessions to adapt to the pandemic. So I used to speak in person at quite a lot of conferences, and that brought me a great deal of business because people would organically meet me at the conference. I almost had to do no pitching. So every business opportunity I ever had just came from, oh, I heard you speak. I know your company does X. Now let me, connect you with so-and-so from my company and let's get a deal going. Those speaking engagements are really different now, right? So that means that I had to pivot my approach. We never had done cold pitches or emails or had an idea about having a virtual presence at a conference. Should we have a virtual booth, whatever the case might be. And now all of that had to be rethought to grow the business. So don't be afraid to try something you haven't done before, because the old way you got business may not work in this virtual setting. So I am going to look in the chat, and we're going to, I have a couple questions and thoughts for you guys. Okay, so yes, you're continuing to share who you are, your handles, your websites, great. Someone says, you're getting on the calendar after this call to adjust. Thank you, Jeremy, to adjust the time to have meetings. Yeah, having an open calendar is not the most efficient use of your time all of the time. So you want to think about having a work day. I see some of my clients do this where they block out Fridays to have a no meetings day and really focus on planning for the next week. As business owners, we always need to be thinking ahead. That saying, I don't need to just work in my business, I need to work on my business. And that requires time and dedicated space to really be focusing on your strategy. You cannot do that when you're in meetings all the time. So I'll just keep checking the chat. I see we had 2 questions pop up, and I will come back to this. Okay, so managing digital fatigue requires innovation. Some people are loving the Zooms. I like them. They're great. Or the Google Meets, whatever you use, Blue Jeans, I don't know, all kinds of platforms. But some, both our clients as well as even the people on our teams, are exhausted by it. And that Zoom happy hour, we're a year in to having Zoom happy hours now, right? So to manage some of that and stay exciting for your clients, there's going to be a need for some innovation. What does that look like? So a couple of things. We just hit on it a slide ago, but are there new tools you need to add into your marketing mix? Maybe you never did social media for your business. Now you have to be very aggressive and proactive in making sure you're in the face of potential customers. You might have never run an ad for your business. Previously, I had only done Google ads. Now I'm about to experiment with banner ads, which I've never done on different websites. So I'm really excited about that. So changing some of your strategy, adding new tools to your marketing mix. We actually never had a need for a formal pitch deck, so to speak, because again, I mentioned we were all word of mouth and referral. So when people came to us, they had an idea of what they wanted. But as we're seeking scalability, we want to 10x our growth over the next 3 years. What we're needing to do is proactively reach out to new customers, new businesses. And that meant we had to create a whole set of marketing materials in order to support that. Where might your strategy for reaching customers need to change? Maybe you were using one platform primarily. Maybe it was in-person conferences or trade shows. Maybe that was the way you were getting all your business. Well, if those aren't happening anymore, do you need to add a certification, open up a new network? Maybe before you never got business from NMSDC, but you heard at an event like the one we're having now that there's a supplier portal where you can search the contact information for folks who are looking for businesses in your category. And now you're going to sign up for that certification. So trying new strategies to reach customers that you hadn't tried before. I want you all to just throw in the chat, what's something that you haven't tried before that you're willing to try now, a new strategy that you tried during the pandemic to reach more customers. Go ahead and throw it in the chat and I'll read some of those in just a second. And then also, when you're hosting digital events or meetings, how do you make your company stand out? What do you do that's not stale? So I've sat on some amazing Zooms with really creative things, DJs in the background, live artists, boxes that are sent that have product that represent the company, new refreshes of the pitch, having really cool icebreaker games that allow people to get used to each other. One of my favorite that we did for a team offsite was a virtual scavenger hunt where we found items in our house and competed for prizes. So finding new ways to keep whatever digital events you're having, either with your team or with your clients, not feel stale. Try to be innovative here and really engage the folks on the other end in a different way. And I'm looking to see, what are you all doing that's different? In terms of new strategies, radio and TV commercials. Okay, CRM systems, great. Blocking out Wednesdays has been the best day. Our clients didn't notice it because we just don't offer that. Okay, great. Folks are using Okay, so first, folks are actually using the certifications they have to find new customers, where maybe previously that wasn't something you were doing. Attending more trainings to learn how to use Google search tools without SEO. Okay, so paid advertisement. Some folks looking to use more social media and Zoom for business. Keep it coming, because the strategies you're trying right now could be the thing that helps another business. And we all need to be putting our minds together to grow and help each other through this. So the other thing I want you to think about are, where are some areas in your services or your products that you need to pivot? Maybe a menu item, if any of you have restaurants, brick and mortar businesses, maybe a service you had, maybe your service was, you were an event planner and you planned in-person events and handled all the logistics of an event. That may not work so much. You know, there's still virtual events, but that may not be as profitable as it was a year ago. So how are you going to pivot? And when you pivoted your services, something else that is critical is making sure your customers know about any of the changes to your products or services. So how are you letting them know about those changes? What are your avenues for reaching your customers? Is it social media? Is it your newsletter? Is it the paid ads that you're talking about on TV, on radio, other places? So I want to hear about Clubhouse. Somebody brought up Clubhouse as a place to talk about their products or services. That's a great one. Conducting online training to engage the community and attract new customers. Awesome. And I see more of you sharing, using more Instagram Reels. Thank you. Who is that? Daryl. Thank you, Daryl, for bringing that up. Even in this pandemic, we've seen new products by some of our favorite social media platforms, and TikTok has been all the rage. I've seen even some coaches become really innovative in sharing their services through great Reels and through great TikToks. So really being open to trying that thing that pushes you out of your comfort zone is critical now more than ever. Okay, so I'm going to just talk quickly about virtual networking. We have, a couple more things to talk about here, and I'm seeing more in the chat. Okay, offering in-kind services to get your brand more noticed. Awesome. Keep it coming in the chat. So we are in a space where the majority of networking we're doing, most conferences I've seen through 2021, especially in this space, in the supplier diversity space, the majority of them are still virtual through the end of 2021. There are a few that I've seen that are in person, but they're limited capacity. So as we're in this space, the majority of us are having to build business and build relationships virtually. So if that is the case, how do we maximize this? How do we build new relationships? The first thing I would tell you is, before you head to an event, do your research. Who's throwing the event? Things that seem really basic make a huge difference in terms of your preparation and your ability to maximize what you're getting out of the event. Who is throwing the event? What are the takeaways? Even do some critical thinking. Why would they host this? How does this serve their organization? How can I think about something I could offer to further that goal? So come with ideas, do that research, be early to the event. Now, the reason why I say this, so sometimes with Zooms, they don't open the door until it first starts. but sometimes they open it a little bit early. As you can see right now, we have 148 people on the call. If you're one of the first 2 or 3, sometimes you get that extra opportunity to have FaceTime with the head of supplier diversity at MLB or whatever the role is, right? And that can put you on a different radar if you're the first person that gets to introduce yourself. So showing up early and then connecting where you can helps set the stage for further opportunities. When you are commenting, I told you all, and this, I am so happy for this room because y'all are getting this business in 2021. I see scale in your future because you're proactively sharing who you are. You're sharing your business information, what you do. I love to see it. So you want to introduce yourself when commenting on platforms like Zoom, WhatsApp, social media. You have the opportunity to update your bios with all of your relevant information. So for instance, my Zoom ID has my name, but if I knew I was going to be a participant, I could easily switch that to the website address of my company or, that handle I want you to follow, whatever the case might be. Be creative and make it as simple as possible for people to know how to connect with you and share that relevant business information. Okay, I'm going to check the chat as I have a quick sip of water. Okay, I'm seeing more in the chat, more folks introducing themselves. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I want to hear all of it. I cannot wait to read about all of you and who all is in the room. And so a couple other things, and you tell me what else. Put in the chat as I'm speaking, what's your best virtual networking tip? Because I see some of you out here who are really killing the virtual networking game just in this chat. What's your number one tip? You also want to engage often. Ask questions, ask thoughtful questions. When you've done your research, you're able to ask those key questions. So for instance, that question about real estate and how does my real estate business benefit with the MLB? That's a great question. You can tell that, there was some thought in what do I get out of this session that's going to be useful for my business? And those are the things that are memorable when there are big group activities or large virtual conferences and sessions. And then you want to plan your follow-up. Okay, I've attended this event. I've shown my investment in your company. Here are some things that I heard you all mention All-Star Weekend is in July and you're looking to source more Black-owned businesses to do business with. How do I build a relationship with you? What do you need to see from me? I've signed up for the Supplier Diversity Portal. Now what? So start to plan your plan of action and how you're going to follow up. Okay, and I'm seeing some good pieces and nuggets in the chat. A. Fitzgerald says you have to be fearless in networking. Yes, we have to take our ego out of it. I will tell you, I used to be very shy at networking events. And I said, this is my business. If I want my business to grow, I have to go all in. So yes, you have to be fearless. I'm seeing more for doing your research. Yes, it has to be organic for it to work. Understanding your clients or audience's blind spots. Okay, keep it coming. I want to hear more from you. So when we talk about virtual networking, we're all cameras off today, which is fine. But there will be sometimes experiences where you want to make that great impression virtually. And when you have the opportunity to use your camera, you want to keep it on. You want to demonstrate you're engaged as much as possible. This is especially important if you're in a small video meeting with a potential client and you're pitching for business. They want to see you. They want to know who you are. And I'm seeing a lot of folks do really creative things with their background. You can have the company branding at the forefront of your background, front and present. You can even upload a virtual Zoom background that has your logo all over it. Kenroy on my team does this all the time. You want to choose an uncluttered background as much as possible. I know we all have so much going on in our homes. So, to the best of your ability, pick that one little corner and try to have a light source facing you. If it's natural light, that's always best. Right now, the best light source I could get was a ring light. I use that. So whatever works for you, you can find some pretty inexpensive ring lights on B&H and Amazon. So you want to check those out. It's about having your brand be at the forefront. So wherever you can make your brand be memorable, have it there. And then also learn about the culture of the company. If I am pitching to a bank, as much as I love coming to work in my sweatpants or my pajamas or however I wake up, I do know that I might have to have a more formal approach than when I'm working with a technology company, right? So just being mindful of that. There are some roles that still do apply in a virtual world, and there's certain expectations. Try to understand the expectations of the clients you might be pitching. When you're not speaking, it's always best practice to mute your microphone. There's background noise that's happening that you may not even be aware of. So you want to mute your microphone. And when you want to ask questions, go ask if you can go off mute. Raise your virtual hand when you like to speak, because often that engagement is desired by the other party. And then what you're all doing such a great job of right now, keep the engagement up in the chat or even on social. Is an event that's private, is an event that you can tweet about. Tweet at the host, tell them you're thankful at MLB. Thank you so much for talking to us specifically about opportunities for Black-owned businesses with the MLB. Can't wait to do business with you. Whatever, but you want to engage as much as possible. Anything else, go ahead and drop it in the chat. I am watching you. So now I'm going to shift gears. We have just about 20 minutes left before I open it up for questions and respond to some of the questions I've seen come in. I want to talk about why it's important to think about B2B. So right now in the chat, if you are a business where you have business to business contracts, or that's part of your business model, I want you to put 1 in the chat. If you are a business that is only business to consumer, and this is not part of your revenue strategy at all, I want you to put 2 in the chat. Okay, I'm going to look and I'm going to do just a rough count. Okay, so 1 for if you have business to business as a part of your revenue stream, great. And if you're only business to customer, put 2. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of 1s, many 1s, great. A couple 2s, awesome. Some great variety. Okay, 1 and 2, some of you are doing both. Some were mainly 2, but you're moving to 1. Okay, so the reason why I asked this, and look, we need businesses that do both and have both. And it's important for us always to be thinking about diversifying our revenue stream. I am going to tell you, and this is something that I was really intrigued to see, was really backed up by the McKinsey report on building more sustainable Black businesses. When I started my business, it was a one-to-one coaching business. And I also had a technology platform where coaches could engage with clients on that platform. Now, this was back in 2015, and I realized that there were a couple challenges in scaling. As a B2C business, there was so many marketing efforts to maintain. So as a small business, and I was a solopreneur at the time, I had to worry about a couple of different things. I had to not only be good and a thought leader in my area of expertise, I also had to constantly be marketing to increase the funnel of more clients who were aware, or potential clients who were aware of what I did. The maximum amount that I could charge an individual for my services was limited. And even with regular growth, we all raise our prices maybe on an annual basis by a small percentage. It was still limited when I would map out or project what the growth opportunity was for me. Excuse me. And in addition to that, just thinking about my own capacity, how many clients could I take on as a business that was focused on one-on-one coaching? There's limits to my times. So when I thought about scalability, I realized that that model lacked a lot in terms of me actually being able to scale my business. When we switched over to a B2B model, the sky just opened up, and I realized that there was a much larger financial opportunity working with large businesses, that often coaching was something that was a professional development business that many companies were paying for already for their employees. versus me having to convince an individual why they should pay out of their own pocket for coaching, right? This was already something that was a part of the culture of a large organization. So my customer was better suited to do business with me. And I also had moved to a model where I staffed other coaches. So I didn't have to be the one coaching anymore. And it really transformed my business to being one where we were in debt, we were struggling, to one where I'm now in a space where we have employees, we're financially healthy. All of those things made a difference. And so when I saw this McKinsey report, one of the things they called out, one, again, as Black-owned businesses, we're more likely to be solopreneurs and not in a position to manage employees. And we think about scalability, we think about generational wealth and growing our businesses. That's a challenge. We need to be able to scale, and that scale generally, there's always exceptions to the rule, but generally requires us to have teams and to grow and create scalable services and products. So essentially what they shared was that we have a tendency to pursue businesses in less lucrative sectors, and that most of the industries where we're pursuing businesses, we're not even employers in those industries. So we have to move and shift the way we're thinking and find some of the industries that have higher percentages and more likelihood for scalable services that can maintain employers. So it's not to say that we should walk away from these industries, but it's more thinking about how do we diversify our revenue streams and find new opportunities for business. Okay, and I'm seeing more great things coming in the chat. So there was, when we think about diversifying our revenue mix and scale, there are 5 ways really to do this, right? 5 key ways to do this. So the first way is to penetrate a market more deeply. So this is probably the easiest growth strategy that you can think of. It's, I pop up, this is my product. I'm going to keep my product exactly as it is, or my service as it is. But I'm just going to make sure I really focus all my efforts on aggressive marketing, aggressive business development and sales, and I get more customers. Same exact product, more customers. Something else you can do is keep that same product, but have different customers. So for those of you who said you were 2 only, so that means you're only doing B2C, it's not that you have to take that business away, but maybe that same product that you're offering individual customers could work for a large organization. So you keep that same product, but you think about, how do I make this product work for a different set of customers? Then there's this idea of having the same customers. So maybe I keep my, my individual customers, or I keep my Fortune 500 companies I'm working with, whatever the case might be, but I have different channels. So, and this is kind of what many of us have been experiencing in the pandemic. All those things that I used to do offline, I'm now offering as online. So all the trainings, we used to have so many trainings online, in person. I was flying everywhere every other day, just about. And now all of our trainings are virtual. So we kept the same types of customers. We've just changed the channels, right? Then there's the idea of you having new products. So I'm going to offer something new. Before I was doing custom dresses. You know what? Now people aren't going to events as much, but you know what they have no shortage of? They have no shortage of a need for masks. So I'm going to pivot and I'm going to add masks to the set of what I do. And maybe I'll have masks and hair ties and all the things that are work from home essentials when people don't want to do their hair, so they can show up in their Zoom looking great. New products that can go to both your existing customers who are already engaged with your brand, but it also opens up a window for new customers as well. So something else to diversify your business. And then the last one to be thinking about when you're thinking about scaling your business and growing is new products for new customers. So maybe you keep that B2C strategy you have exactly the same, but you recognize, if I want to go into MLB or American Express or whatever the large company is you're looking to partner with, I need something completely new to reach that target customer base. So I might have to create a completely new product for the new customers I'm trying to reach. So The reason why I highlighted or underlined 2 of these for you is because what I want you to be thinking about, if you're doing business with MLB already, go ahead and put MLB in the chat. If you're already doing business with MLB, put MLB in the chat. My feeling is many of you that are here today are not. Okay, we have one. Anyone else doing business with MLB so far? Okay, so out of 140 of us that are still on the call, only one, and I guess me too, are doing business with MLB right now. So in order for us to reach, new customers and a new customer base, we really have to be thinking about really those 2 things that are highlighted. How do we get our same products in the view of new customers? And if we don't think they'll receive the existing products we have, is there a new product that fits within our mission and our values and what we're seeking to do that we could offer those new customers? Where is the pivot for us to grow that new customer base so we're diversifying our revenue mix? So that's what I want you to be thinking about. Yes, not yet. Love to hear it. Because you know what not yet means to me is I'm on my way. That means I'm signing up for the Supplier Diversity Portal and I'm thinking about what is that product or service that I don't have just yet that I know will be a great fit for Major League Baseball. So that's what I want you to all be thinking about. So think about where you can pivot just a little bit to achieve those new customers. Is it the same product and you have a different approach for the different customer, or is it a new product and new customers? So the last piece that I want to share with you as someone who has been partnering for the last 4 years with large companies, I've been a tier 1 supplier for Google since 2017. I've been a part of a couple different supplier diversity programs and worked with large organizations. And I saw a great article. I've put the source there for you. Please, please, please go read the article. Kenroy, feel free to drop it in the chat, or Jackie, whichever one of you can. One thing that is important to know is, and I will say, doing business with businesses is very different than doing businesses with customers. So you can do both. You absolutely can. I encourage all of you to have that diversification, but you do have to know that there's a different process. And so in order to recognize that, what the authors of this article in the HBR, Harvard Business Review, call out is the DNA. Knowing the DNA of the decision-making process at a big company. So you're all gonna walk away. I already saw Ashley's email dropped in the chat. You have some context you connected with today. You'll have one source, but that doesn't mean you're gonna get your first deal with MLB tomorrow. You're gonna sign up for Supplier Diversity Portal. You'll get an address there, an email address you can connect with there as well. But that's not how the deal happens, right? There are a couple parties you have to keep in mind. So one of those is, who is the decision maker, right? So who is the person that is managing the budget? And this is really important. I remember at one point being really frustrated with one particular deal I was trying to get through and having a good conversation with one of my mentors. And what she said to me was, Angelina, are you talking to the decision maker? You're going around in circles, going through the back door. Now, this is a really important point that I'm going to share with you. So I do believe that, and there also was a great Harvard Business Review recently about last week on imposter syndrome and how we're calling it imposter syndrome, but it's really just a result of systemic biases and inequity, right? And we think we're imposters or something is wrong with us, but no, there's a whole system that's designed to make us feel that way. And so one of the things I learned early on was that I, as a Black woman, am socialized to ask for permission. So I'm starting at the very bottom, trying to work my way up through an organization. Even though I'm a CEO, I'm a business owner. I have been a tier 1 supplier with Google for 4 years. Okay. But I think I have to, navigate through a whole organization. Why am I not just emailing the CEO? Why am I going through the back door, the service entrance? Right. And so if I want to get a deal done, I need to find out who the decision maker is and talk to the decision maker. Why am I telling myself that I can only talk to the folks that aren't in control of the budget? So we have to kind of rethink how we approach conversations within a large organization, we don't just have to go through the back door. We need to go right to the top. And I will tell you, I tweeted this just a couple weeks ago. I took that energy, same energy, and I emailed the CEO of a Fortune 100 company. And tomorrow we have a meeting with a C-level executive at that company to talk about a deal, right? So when you talk to the decision makers, decisions happen a whole lot quicker, but you have to know who the decision maker is. So on that point, also something to know about the decision-making process. So the negotiators. So the person that controls the budget is not always the person that controls the process. And large companies tend to have processes in place to really try to accomplish and achieve equity in the procurement cycle that may exist. So that might mean, even though I know my business is the best business for it, I might have even come up with the idea, I might have pitched it, there still may have to be an RFP process. You know what an RFP is? Request for proposal. I may have to bid. I might even have to bid on my own idea. But that is the process to ensure that there's not nepotism and there's not favoritism. So there's some negotiation that might have to happen in that process. And that negotiation may not happen with the decision maker. But you can't just ignore that process and overlook it, because the process is in place for a reason. So these are just relationships you have to be aware of and manage, right? And then the other key player, and we should all have this, if any of you ever work for an internal, corporate company or corporate organization, you might have heard the term thrown around a lot called sponsors. You have sponsors in an organization. If you know what a sponsor is, throw it in the chat. I want to see. If you know what a sponsor is, tell us the definition in the chat. Okay, well, in a large organization, as you're trying to climb up the corporate ladder, one of the things that a sponsor does is they are at higher levels in a room, and they are the ones speaking your name in rooms that you are not in to advocate for you. Well, that means they have positional power, and they're using that power to get you seen in those rooms. The same thing happens in supplier processes. You need advocates for you. And that advocate may not be the procurement team that you're negotiating with. They may not be the budget owner, but they have a stake in that. It might be their business unit that's affected, or it might be just they have the internal clout within the organization to make a difference. And they can advocate for you. They can speak on the inside. They can say that even though the bid says we need a business that handled a $25 million contract before, and the biggest contract your business handled was $500,000, they know that you have the team in place to go if you have the budget necessary, and they can speak to that on your behalf. So you need that advocate in the room for you that can say, I know you're missing your certification. We really need you to be certified. We'll set you up with a mentor, but pending certification, this business owner would be a great fit for that deal. You need those advocates. So I say that to say, as you all are transitioning, many of you are already ones, but there were still a lot of twos, and many of you that didn't speak in the chat about how you're doing business. If as you're transitioning from business to customer and adding business to business to your revenue mix, you do have to know that these are some of the stakeholders that you will be connecting with and needing to do business with. Okay, great. I'm just seeing if sponsor is a stakeholder who will speak and position you for future positions. Yes. All right, we are getting to the tail end. Get your questions ready. I know I have a couple that are unanswered, so I will make sure we get to those in just a second. But now, so what did we talk about today? We talked about best practices for managing your teams and clients remotely. We talked about some tips for virtual networking. We talked about the state of Black-owned businesses and why it's important for us to diversify our revenue mix, how partnering with large organizations can be an opportunity for us to not just be solopreneurs, but build teams to help us sustain and grow. Okay, that's everything we talked about before. So we hit 3 items on the agenda. Now, the last item on the agenda, and what I know a lot of you want to hear about, is doing business with MLB. So what does that look like? Now, this is just some information that has, you all can read more on the Supplier Diversity site, but there's a couple things I want you to know. Since 1998, Major League Baseball has spent over $1 billion with MBEs and MWBEs, $1 billion in the last 23-ish years, right? And there are a couple things that are really important to them. So I'm going to share some that are from the website, and then I'm going to share you some that came directly from the Supplier Diversity team. So one of the first things is it really is important in certain organizations. It's critical that you know their industry. They value that. I will tell you, I used to work at ESPN. And I was a casual sports fan. The terms we would use in marketing back in the day there, you have avid sports fans, you have casual sports fans. I'm casual. I watch basketball if it's on. I really do like basketball. I'll watch pretty much any sport if it's live. I think live sports are fun. I don't remember any stats of anything ever. I'm not really engaging in a conversation about who is the GOAT. That's not really my thing. However, if I wanted to grow in my career at a sports media company, I had to know everything that was happening with, what happened the night before in terms of top sports. So I could join the conversation, be a part of the conversation. And my role wasn't even related to sports. I was a corporate analyst. I was doing financial projections, still had to know it. Because if you want to grow, you want to get the meetings with the executives, that's how you do it. So this is the same thing I'm going to tell you. You have to know the game of baseball. You have to make it a habit to check the baseball news, what press releases. They just put out about 3 different press releases about everything they're doing for Black History Month. So maybe in your follow-up, when you're sending an email, I saw that you're doing this with HBCUs. As an HBCU grad, it means a lot to me that XX initiative is doing X. Let me tell you about my business. Find ways to make your pitch relevant. Show that you care about what the organization is doing. You want to certify your business. So we'll talk about the Supplier Diversity Portal, but you said the answer is Serena. Serena's go, okay, you know what? Touche, I agree. But you want to certify. Now, the Supplier Diversity Portal does not require any certification, so go ahead and sign up. MLB Supplier Diversity Portal. It is free and open. But in order for you to get the sustained contracts that you want, it is a good idea to start working on certifications. And they have a couple of certifications that they call out as being really important to them. And that's NMSDC, WeBank, the SBA, and the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. So you want to look at those certifications. You also want to be specific. Know what your business does. So for those of you where, remember, we talked about new products, new customers. If approaching an organization like MLB is new to you, really be specific in what it is you're offering that's going to be a value to an organization like this. Okay, that's very critical. Then you want to be realistic. There's, a lot of demand for the business. So what can you offer? How does your business fit into the picture of what it is they're seeking to do? The answer is there might be a lot of opportunity or there might not. Be realistic, but still build the relationships, because something that was not, like, who knows, maybe a year ago, they didn't know they needed PPE contracts. Now, let me tell you something, they need PPE contracts, right? So you want to keep the relationships going so you can have the business when your time comes, but be realistic about what the need is right now. And then you want to know your competition. You want to know your competition so you can know why you're best suited to win out the competition, okay? So here are some things that came directly from, the Supplier Diversity team that I want to make sure you know about. Doing your research, we've highlighted this a couple times, in virtual networking. It applies here too. Each of the clubs have a breakdown. So every local team has a breakdown on the front office staff on their website. think critically about who you should be approaching based on the kind of deal that you think makes sense for you. Find out information also about the specific team. Know who their players are, know the team history, know the performance of the, what's going on in the league. Because when you show up to do business with them, again, they're going to care that you care about baseball. Even if your contract is about being a food vendor, they need to know that you care about baseball. So show up that way. Know the cycle of baseball. So we know, is end of February approaching and March is spring training. Is that a good time to approach certain teams based off your business? The regular season, when does that start? Do you want to approach ahead of the regular season? Is it too busy of a time if you're having a marketing pitch or marketing offering? Is that just a hard time to do business with them? All-Star weekend's coming up. What might they need for All-Star that they don't need any other time of the year? So you want to be really critical about that. And then just a quick point about negotiating and bidding. So they do bidding differently at the MLB. They want you to bid your best final price first. So think about that competitive price. And I will tell you too, when I put my price up, cool, that's your price. We either accept or we don't accept. So you need to put your best final price. What do you actually need to get paid? What is your limit? And put that out first and bid at the price you're comfortable doing business at. They want to pay you fairly. So make sure you share that real price that you want to do business with, and show that you can be an ally and a partner. And that's really how you knock it out the park. Okay. So last thing I want to tell you, again, the supplier diversity portal is completely open. You all can visit it. It is free to register. There's no crazy requirements. You do not have to have certifications, although if you do, you should definitely incorporate them. I called out the 4 that they look for most, but there's many other certifications. There's 8A certification, city agencies, federal agencies. So there's all kinds of others. If you have those, you want to share them. But it's a 1-page application. If you've done the application, go ahead and put supplier diversity in the chat. Put the word, or put SD in the chat if you've already entered the portal. I want to hear from you. Okay, we had many that are part of the supplier diversity program. Okay, I see a couple. I want to see a couple more. SD, yes, NMSDC certified business, great. Okay, so keep putting that in the chat. And those of you who have filled out the portal can attest, it's very simple. It's basic business information. You know your business address, your tax ID, hopefully, your contact info. Hopefully, you know the services you provide and the regions you serve. So it is very simple. So don't be afraid. Go ahead and join, because there's a lot of benefits to being a part of supplier diversity. Sometimes there are special, different promotions, special opportunities. Some supplier diversity programs I've been on offer scholarships just for you being a member of their supplier diversity portal. One I know offered ad credits. There's a lot of different opportunities that you can take advantage of that you can't if you're not in the portal. So you want to go ahead and make that be your first step. And many of you have talked about certified. I see that coming up over and over in the chat. Certifications can be daunting. I do know that. I will tell you that myself, but they drive value. There's 8 million minority-owned businesses in the US, and NMSDC says that $400 billion in economic output every year is driven by minority-owned businesses who are certified, right? So that's important. And then also supplier diversity is important to companies. They want to work with you. They know that it's tied to a heavier, a stronger bottom line for them. They're looking for diverse suppliers to do business with, but oftentimes they need you to be certified for you to do the business. Not all the time, but many times they do. So I want to encourage you to get certified because it does drive value. Now, whoops, my slide is showing up weird. Now, okay, looking ahead, we're closing, and I know there's quite a number of questions I have to get to and answer. And I want to just read through the chat again because it's so exciting going over there. Y'all are saying so many great things. I want to learn from what you shared. I want to know what action steps you're going to take. So I have a couple suggestions. Many of you put SD, meaning you applied. If you haven't, just check out the Supplier Diversity Portal. Go ahead and sign up. You want to email Ashley, learn about more details for any procurement opportunities for All-Star. You want to get certified if you're not already and build bigger companies. And that's some of the last things we talked about. So hopefully that's hot on your mind. But what else? We talked about virtual networking. We talked about changing your marketing strategies. We talked about managing your teams and your client remotely. What's one action step? Just go ahead and throw it in the chat for me. What's one action step that you are going to take as a result of this workshop? Go ahead and throw it in the chat. I want to see an action step. I need to see at least 2 action steps, then I'll start taking questions. Sign up as a supplier with MLB. Okay. Any networking action steps? Yes. Apply an MLD SD portal. Yes. Yes. I'm seeing so many of you sign up for the portal. Register for the portal. You're going to start thinking about going B2B. Okay. So change adding to your revenue mix. Awesome. You're going to network with some of the chat members. Yes. You're going to get started with some project management tools for more efficiencies. Yes. Okay, do some research about baseball. Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so I've seen quite a lot of activity in the chat. I'm happy. Thank you. Thank you for engaging. We do have just a time, like 2 minutes for questions. So I'm gonna, share the questions. Oops. Is my slide not showing anymore? Okay, well, I had a thank you slide. I don't know why it's not flipping over. I think my computer might be frozen, but there we go. I just want to thank you so much. I want to say thank you to MLB for having C-Suite Coach here today. Again, we talked about some of the things that institutions need to do to show up for our communities. And part of that is knowledge sharing, us sharing more with our communities, things that we need to move our businesses forward. And that's exactly what happened today. So I'm very grateful to MLB for that. I'm going to take just 1 or 2 questions, and then I'm going to turn it back to Justin to close us out. So let me stop sharing my screen. I'm going to stop the share and just look at the chat for questions. I see 7 questions in Q&A. Will you have a future event where you have your partners link with other invited businesses to potentially create collaborations? So I'm saying, okay, this is a great one for Justin to hear. There seems like there's some opportunity for pitch showcases and more showcases, which I will tell you, if you read about what MLB is doing, Justin's already been doing some of that. So it seems like there's a demand for more of them. Another reason why you should stay connected with MLB. If you are not certified yet, can we update certifications after registering on the portal? I will let Justin take that question. And
try to follow the question, Angelina. What was the question again? I'm happy to answer it.
If I'm not certified yet, but I signed up for the portal, how do I update the certifications after I've certified?
You should have a login. You should be able to go back into the portal and update all of your information and upload the actual certification.
Awesome. Okay, great. So those are all of the questions that we have time for today. If you have any other questions, you can feel free to add us on social. We shared our handles, so add us on Twitter. That's where we would answer the questions. And again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you to everyone for being here. And thank you to Justin, who I'm going to turn it over to close us out.
Angelina, thank you. Jackie, Kenroy, look, I cannot say enough about your partnership and our deep commitment to this space, right? If you take a look at the history of our supplier diversity efforts, we've spent over $2 billion with minority and women business-owned enterprises. And it begins with sessions like this, us getting to understand who you are, what you do, and understand the opportunities that we both can grow and provide access to opportunities. So we're made better through vendors and partners and friends like all of you. And it's our honor and thrill to be able to host sessions like this with experts like Angelina and her team leading the way. So, I think that on the one touch point on, how do you engage directly, just this last December for our winter meetings, we invited, I'd say probably 150, 175 partners of ours to come pitch for businesses. And the focus was PPE. So if you are in the PPE space, if you were in the healthcare space, we provided a forum where our clubs got to meet you one-on-one. You had an opportunity to present. We're going to continue building those. We're going to continue building those showcases, those opportunities and network. I want you to all get to know our procurement teams, who are all just really experienced and great collaborative partners in this space. So, we've talked about it today, but if there's a chance for you to register via our website, takes 2 seconds to do. Let us know who you are. When you register, every club across Major League Baseball and Central Baseball has access to your information. So don't be worried about registering for one particular club in your area. We all have access to that, and we're going to continue leveraging that portal to actively source and reach out to all of you. So, this is the last of our 3 sessions with all of you, and I'm sad to see all of you go. But look, this is the beginning of a deeper relationship between Major League Baseball and your organization. So I encourage you. Ashley Manzueta on my team, you should probably have already received an email from. So please feel free to reach out to her. Leverage her if you have any questions. I can't say enough about the energy and the time that Ashley has committed to really helping grow and develop our local communities, and this is an area that's of real interest and passion for her. So I'm fortunate to have her on my team, and I'm fortunate to have partners like all of you looking to help us. So with that, thank you, Angelina. Thank you, team. Thank you to all of you for tuning in today. I hope that you have an opportunity to do business with baseball. And until we meet, we look forward to hopefully one day soon seeing you all in person at NMSDC or WeBank or somewhere where we can all meet and greet and get to know each other a little better. So thank you all. Have a great day.